Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups. This is Sramana, Mitra, founder and CEO, coming to you live from Silicon Valley, California. Today, we're doing the last online rendezvous of 2020. It's been a really tough year for a lot of people all over the world. If you have experienced tragedy, our deep condolences. It's going to be a tough winter. America is facing a tough winter. Europe is facing a tough winter, particularly the UK. And California is facing a tough winter. So whichever way you look, it's kind of at least another 3 to 6 months of tough times ahead, and until the effect of the vaccine starts to kick in. So in any case, I hope you will all be safe, and we will continue to work with you. This is the last time we come to you live from Silicon Valley this year. We will see you in the new year. Today, as usual, I'm going to do a bunch of questions that we have on topics that we have addressed elsewhere in our work. And feel free to ask questions in the public chat. I will answer them after the video part of this session, or if a question warrants a larger response, I will craft a response and bring it to you in a follow-on session. Okay, so let's go to the first question. The question is, what is the future of the SaaS industry? As you know, I cover SaaS in a very extensive way. I have a Cloud Stocks newsletter on LinkedIn. So if this is a topic that you are interested in, I strongly recommend that you subscribe to the Cloud Stocks newsletter. But as a response to this, I want to point you to my Big Idea 2021 piece, where I said SaaS companies will create 10 million jobs. And I'm saying this based on numerous conversations I've had over the last 18 months with SaaS CEOs, all of whom are here on LinkedIn. We are, of course, live right now on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook and Twitter. My prediction is that starting in 2021, the SaaS industry will be on a path to create 10 million jobs. The platform ifs. If 1,000 SaaS companies open up their platforms as a service, PaaS, as we call that, as Salesforce.com does by 2025, if each platform lets startups sell through its marketplace, as Salesforce.com does by 2025, if each platform empowers 1,000 startups to build on its stack by 2025, if each startup creates $1 million in annual revenue by 2030, and if each startup hires an average of 10 employees by 2030. Then the job math is as follows: 1,000 SaaS companies times 1,000 startups times 10 jobs is 10 million jobs by 2030. The win-win: 1,000 startups times 1 million in revenue on each PaaS platform marketplace implies that's a total 1 billion in total revenue for each platform ecosystem. 30% platform fee implies 300 million revenue for the SaaS company that owns the platform. 300 million revenue implies 3 billion plus in market cap gain for each SaaS player. 1,000 SaaS players times $3 billion is $3 trillion in market cap gain for the SaaS industry. But the thing that I'm really excited about, the real math, is that $1 million annual revenue by 1 million SaaS startups by 2030 implies $1 trillion in real global GDP. And my conclusion is that the PaaS trend is already in swing. Starting in 2021, it will accelerate. By 2030, it will change the world. And my call to action to SaaS CEOs and board members is to reach out to me, to strategize. There are things we can do together. We can do co-branded accelerators together, global virtual accelerators for specific platforms to accelerate this trend and, give this trend structure and momentum. So the next question is, of course, a related question. Everything we're going to do today is going to be related to this general topic. The second question is, how likely is it that 1,000 SaaS companies will successfully transition into PaaS? Very good question. My assumption is that the 80-20 rule would apply. Salesforce will create many more jobs and companies than the 1,000th SaaS company. So, Salesforce already has more than 1,000 startups on its platform with, many more than 10,000 jobs. So these companies, many of these are stable companies already in place. So this is the beginning of the trend, and there are other companies that are also doing really well. So those are the ones at the front end and the cutting edge of this trend are going to have a much higher impact. And the ones that are the laggards are going to have a lot smaller impact. So even though I kind of framed the model by saying 1,000 by 1,000, I don't think eventually it will be 1,000 by 1,000. Nothing ever does. The reason I write it the way I do is to inspire all SaaS companies to want to become PaaS players and get that force multiplier. We want to work with a small set of these and build co-branded accelerators with 1M by 1M. And we are in a lot of these conversations right now, which is how I derived the concept. So I think there will be a smaller subset that is going to be really, really powerful companies and will scale at a massive level. And then there's going to be the middle, and then there's going to be the laggards. So that's how I think the curve is going to shape up. Next question, what are some of the most successful PaaS ecosystems and marketplaces? Very legitimate segue. Salesforce, of course, is one of the most important. We've seen them on their platform, enormously important companies being built like Viva, Velocity. They recently acquired Velocity last year for $1.3 billion. Aptus is a unicorn company. There are others like this. They've acquired Map Anything, etc. So Salesforce is enormously important, and there are many, many, many companies that are small startups built on top of Salesforce. Then there's Shopify. Shopify has built an extremely interesting PaaS platform and a developer ecosystem, and their developers are making real money selling into their millions of merchants. Atlassian is doing a very nice job building a developer ecosystem. Twilio is a slightly different model. It's not exactly you're not building applications on top of a platform. What you're doing is you are building products and applications and services on top of the Twilio platform, but the model is they're not taking a percentage of your revenue. You are basically paying a service fee, percentage of the, this is a communication PaaS. In the communication PaaS, it's a usage-based. So your revenue is based on usage, and they're taking a percentage of that usage fee. So it kind of boils down to the same concept. That's why I did some amount of simplification in writing something that is very, precise and punchy. But Twilio has 6 million developers, and they're doing over $100 million from their PaaS ecosystem revenues. So this is very, very significant. Okay, This is going to be our next question. What is bootstrapping by piggybacking? So if you're a startup, now you're wondering, how do you leverage this trend? We've discussed all kinds of creative bootstrapping mechanisms in 1 million by 1 million. But bootstrapping by piggybacking is one of the most exciting opportunities currently in the platform as a service and developer ecosystems. Of course, the company that has knocked the ball out of the park with their PaaS strategy is Salesforce.com. They launched their platform over a decade back, and many substantial companies and numerous sustainable small businesses have been built on it. Viva, for example, was built this way with a very small amount of capital, and today boasts over $1 billion in revenue and over 20 billion in market cap. My hypothesis is that of the 200 plus SaaS companies that have achieved scale, we would see a set that would break out and become significant PaaS players. This is what the 80-20 rule indicates. This means the industry would have 20 to 50 PaaS platforms soon, with serious developer ecosystems and app marketplaces. And the PaaS vendors would want to sell the apps developed on their platforms to their customer base and take 30% in platform commission. That will help support robust businesses while scaling themselves exponentially. So entrepreneurs who are looking for a capital-efficient strategy should seriously consider bootstrapping by piggybacking on one of these PaaS players. So look for the early adopters of PaaS, the early PaaS leaders, and find one that fits which industry segment you want to work in, which which ecosystem you want to be part of. Then learn how to use that ecosystem, learn the technicalities as well as the biz dev angles of that ecosystem. And by the way, don't lose sight of the bootstrapping to exit opportunity. Atlassian is acquiring again and again from their app marketplace. Salesforce, I just said, has acquired several, but two that I give examples of, Map Anything and Velocity, are players from their ecosystem that they have acquired. The advantage of working on a platform and its ecosystem and then get acquired by the same platform vendor is that the acquisition integration is a lot smoother, because you're not trying to bring something off a different stack, different technology stack, and so forth. So keep that in mind. Your exit path gets simpler. Of course, the exit options also get narrower. You're making a very, very precise bet on a particular platform, and either looking to build a sizable company on that platform, or trying to get acquired by that platform. Which is, a good segue into the question that comes from out of that. How should a startup choose a PaaS platform to piggyback on? So the first answer to that is make a list of the PaaS platforms out there. And then in parallel, make a list of your own expertise and the ideas and the problem domains that you have some familiarity with. If you are an e-commerce expert, for example, you have deep experience in online selling, and you are noodling a software idea that is to help small e-commerce merchants, then a potential platform for you would be Shopify. It could be BigCommerce, which operates with slightly larger e-commerce companies. So those would be your more likely options. E-commerce companies have also been built on Salesforce. Now, if you're looking at, for example, the IT collaboration and team work marketplace, project management, and etc., IT project management, that ecosystem is largely on Atlassian and ServiceNow. ServiceNow, however, has less emphasis on startups. Atlassian has more emphasis on startups. Twilio in communication PaaS, the players are Twilio and Nexmo. So you have to find a relevant PaaS platform that fits what you want to build. And that's what you should piggyback on. The next question is, where else have you seen the idea of platforms supporting large numbers of companies and jobs? Amazon has 3 million small merchants selling on their platform and marketplace, through their marketplace. About 30,000 of these merchants, small merchants, sell over $1 million a year worth of merchandise. That's $30 billion in gross merchandise volume. And this ecosystem is supporting a lot of livelihoods, easily, many 100,000, livelihoods. The 3 million small merchants, probably this ecosystem alone is catering to, I would say, probably 10 million or so jobs. If you take the 30,000 that are doing $1 million a year, let's be conservative and assume each of them have 3 people working on the project. So that's close to 100,000 jobs. And then the 3 million merchants is at least 1 person per merchant, probably more likely 2. So, it adds up fairly quickly. If not 10 million, there are at least 5 million jobs, livelihoods that are being supported by the Amazon ecosystem. So it is that same concept. Now we are applying that to the PaaS ecosystems. And in some cases, there are other kinds of effects, like Shopify, for instance, also supports a lot of small businesses, small e-commerce merchants. So there is overlap, by the way, between the Shopify merchants and the Amazon merchants. Shopify also probably has, 1 million plus merchants on their platform. There are other kinds of platforms like this that support different categories of merchants. Etsy has one, and those are all great livelihood generators and great job builders. The next question is, are you seeing platform effects in the emerging markets? Yes, I'm definitely seeing platform effects. Amazon itself is big in India, for example. Flipkart has the same model in India. China is much bigger. The platform effect in China is much bigger. WeChat has become a super app through which a lot of apps are acquiring their customers. So they're playing the platform game, so to speak. And then Alibaba has had enormous impact. Alibaba has been a tremendous e-commerce marketplace and has supported millions of small businesses. This is one of the most important case studies in a platform really, changing economies. We'll see a lot more in this coming decade. We'll also see new platforms emerging that will create their own large-scale network effect. Another platform that you could look at in thinking about this, the impact of technology platforms on job creation and economic, building blocks, is Upwork and related 99 Designs and other freelancer.com, etc. But Upwork is the merger of Elance and Odesk, and they're the freelancer marketplace. That's been a big, very big impact in changing economies. I read a report from the World Economic Forum on how the economy of Bangladesh is intensely freelancer driven, and these freelancers sell through Upwork in very large numbers. So while India has a more formulated IT industry with product companies, services companies, etc., Bangladesh's IT industry is very much freelancer driven. And I haven't seen any report on Pakistan on this, but I believe Pakistan has similar dynamics. It doesn't have as many companies, but has a large freelancer ecosystem. So I think all these technology platforms have enormous capacity for being a force of good, being a force of economic rebuilding as we try to get out of COVID and build back a meaningful economy. So the question that I'm going to take next is, are you optimistic about 2021? So everything we discussed today so far is about how much impact technology platforms are going to be able to have in creating companies, creating entrepreneurs, creating jobs. So yes, I am optimistic about 2021. We will have to be patient. People who cannot work online, my world, the world that I work with, and that I'm extremely optimistic about, is a world that works from home. This is a remote work world that can make a living without being exposed to COVID because of, various undesirable exposures. But there is also that other world of people, the essential workers, the healthcare workers, the retail workers, the delivery personnel, who are keeping the world going right now. And these people still have a ways to go because they cannot work from home and they're still exposed. Vaccination has started, will continue aggressively, and probably by March, April, we'll see healthcare workers around the world starting to get to a better place, being vaccinated and so forth. And then elderly people, the more at-risk people. So the greater population to be vaccinated, to live normal life, is going to be end of summer or fall, maybe end of the year, 2021. Around the world. So we still have to be very patient in 2021 and follow social distancing, follow the mask wearing principles, and protect ourselves, protect our neighbors and population at large, for everything to settle and come to a safe place. But overall, yes, I'm optimistic. Humanity has produced a number of vaccines in really, really amazing speed. And we will find out how safe it is and how scalable it is shortly. But, at least the end is in sight, most likely. And in the process, what I'm also optimistic about is humanity's ability to take a complete curveball problem, right? COVID is a curveball. It's what Nassim Nicholas Taleb called the black swan. This curveball was hurled at humanity at frantic pace, and humanity has reacted with science. That's something to be immensely optimistic about. So hopefully, there will probably be other such issues, including more pandemics, more pathogens emerging from it over time. And humanity has learned how to deal with this problem. And hopefully in the future, when, beginnings of such pandemics surface somewhere in some country, in some corner of some country, we will know better how to handle it. So yes, I'm optimistic about that. I'm optimistic also about the fact that we are ending a very dysfunctional US presidency in another month. and the fact that the new president, Joseph Biden, has a stated goal of addressing climate change in a big way, rejoining the Paris Accord and investing heavily in climate-related issues. There's also philanthropic money coming into climate change. Jeff Bezos, the richest man on earth, his stated agenda is supporting climate change. So there's going to be good, significant budget available for research and for, various programs needed to tackle that enormous issue from the right quarters, people who have resources. So all these are optimism generating factors. I will say there are very, very concerning short-term factors. Like there's a massive homelessness crisis lurking. There are 13 million people in the United States who are facing eviction by December 31st. So the short term for a very large part of humanity looks very precarious, and there's tremendous suffering. I'm kind of not in the mood to celebrate Christmas this year because of the amount of suffering that's out there in the world. There's so many people who are in such dire straits, and that makes me feel very sad and very, very concerned about how we are going to help these people. How is the world going to help these people? And on that sobering note, I'll take the last question, which is how can entrepreneurs work with you? Well, I am very accessible. As you know, many of you already work with me. I am available on free public mentoring roundtables every week. Not next week. We're taking a break. Not this week and not next week. This week is Christmas. Next week is New Year's. But January 7th is our next roundtable, and then after that is going to be every week. We do have mentoring sessions every week. If you go to our website, 1mby1m.com, and go to free public roundtables, all of the instructions, registration links, schedules, everything is there. You can sign up to book your slot, and I will be very happy to work with you in an upcoming session. Well, that closes our year of interacting with you on these platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Be safe, be well, all the best, and energize. And those of you who are going to be doing startups, I will be there. 1 million by 1 will be there. 1 million by 1 million will be there. My team will be there to support your work and be your support group. We are big believers in solo entrepreneurs. So if you're trying to venture out on your own by yourself, count on us. Thank you. Bye-bye.